Snake in the grass. Oh, hold on.
Rita, how are you? Good.
Representative or Senator? What's he running for?
Our senator's not going to be here tonight? Oh. The thing is, I think that your word should be
Second, I think so.
And my experience is it has not been.
Are we expecting to?
The whole thing is
Really good.
Yeah.
She looked great, I thought.
Run again.
Nobody.
Oh, no.
No, but I didn't look for him. No, I just left that blank.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Scheer isn't here this evening. We expect him, but we'll go ahead and get started without him. So with that, I would like to begin the August 2nd, 2012 regular meeting of the Olathe School District Board of Education. Mrs. Hibbs, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Ms. Ashley?
Here.
Dr. Daniels?
Here.
Mrs. Felter?
Here.
Mrs. Martin?
Yeah, here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Mr. Poland?
Here.
Mr. Scheer?
Would you all rise, please, for the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item we have on our agenda this evening is a presentation on summer school. I believe we have Mrs. Deb Chappell to give us a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. We had a very successful summer school year, and I wanted to share some information with you about participation this year. As you're aware, and I did a presentation in May on some of the programs that we offer during the summer, we do have a very comprehensive summer program for students. We offer summer adventures or sail for elementary students, summer trails for middle school students. We offer high school credit recovery and credit advancement for students who want to harvest some extra time and get some extra credits. And extended school year for students with disabilities, ELL services, driver's education, and summer weights. All in all, we had 3,731 students participate in some manner in an Olathe program this summer, which we're very proud of that participation. For sail, we had 1,367 students, and of that number, 173 were special education students, 432 were ELL students, and we also had, in addition to that, 119 early childhood students. So a lot of little ones came to us this summer. Scholarships. Many students would not be able to participate in these programs were it not for the scholarships that we provide to help them access summer learning. And we had 873 students attend SAIL on a scholarship, and this was approximately 64% of all the students attending SAIL attended on a scholarship. Reading and writing enrollment, and we keep track of this because, of course, our focus is helping improve those core skills in reading and writing. We had 420 participate in Reading Rally, 229 in Pool Party and Beach Bash reading, and 164 in Young Writer Studio, in addition to 274 in STAR Math and 285 in Leap Ahead and MathWorks. So we had a total of 694 students in kindergarten through fourth grade participate in targeted reading instruction and math instruction. Many of those students who came for reading or math instruction also participated in enrichment classes. And here's a few pictures from those classes. We had classes like Galley Fun, Art Anyone, Fun and Fitness, Science Investigations, Broadway Lights, and Creative Computers. For summer trails in the middle school, we had 437 students, and 77 of those were special education and 80 were ELL. And 175 of the 437 students received scholarships, so that about 40% of students attending summer trails received a scholarship so that they could participate. And similar to SAIL, in addition to the core classes, we offer enrichment classes, and many students participate in Skills for Life and newspaper. Lego robotics is extremely popular. We had to add another Lego robotics class this year because of the popularity of that class, and string orchestra. A new addition to the summer program this year was the Summer School Meals Program. And while we have offered this program at elementary sites for the community in the past, this was the first year that we integrated this program into the summer school day. And in preschool through 8th grade, we provided breakfast and lunch to nearly 2,000 students every day this year. So that was a huge increase from what we've been able to do in the past. In addition to the summer school sites, Food Production also separately ran the 3 community sites at Ridgeview, Rolling Ridge, and Fairview, and provided additional meals in those sites. Excuse me, sorry. In high school, a total of 386 students participated. 185 participated in credit recovery, 126 in credit advancement, and 75 of those were special education students. Driver's education, always popular. 369 students participated in driver's education this summer, and we feel much safer for it. Summer weights really grew this year. We had a little over 1,000 students participate in summer weights, and the biggest reason for that was we were able to extend that to the middle schools this year. So in the past, that's been primarily a high school offering, and we were able to expand that quite a bit this year. So we had 263 middle school students and 790 high school students participate in summer weights. And that's it, if you have any questions. Summer school in a nutshell.
Board members have any comments or questions?
You were busy, weren't you?
Yes,
I just had some questions.
sure.
Ms. Chappell, in regards to the lunch program, I understand that most of that, some of that was funded by a federal grant.
That's correct.
Do we expect that to be the same grant, be able to get the same grant next year? We've kind of created an expectation here in the community
Right.
on this, and just wondering what it would look like going forward.
I hope so. I think we all recognize that we're in pretty tentative economic times, and so we never can be totally certain from year to year what the state will provide and what they won't provide. But we certainly anticipate it and plan, in our planning, we plan to do that again next year. So it would be certainly a disappointment if that didn't come up again.
And I addressed that a little bit, Scott Kingery. It's actually not a grant. It's a reimbursement program, just like the lunch program, breakfast program, and it's available every year.
Okay, so then we'd be able to do it next year. I noticed also
Yes,
that
absolutely.
we indicated we had served like 2,000 children, and there were 3,700 children in the summer school. So what happened to the other 1,700?
That number, I was looking at it, and that include driver's ed, weight training.
So they may have not
Meals.
have been there during the lunch period.
Correct.
And do we know how many children we served meals to in the 3 community sites? Those were, I understand that those were children who weren't necessarily coming to summer school, but were able to
Correct.
come to school for a lunch?
They averaged between 35 and 50 students a day, which is about half from last year. And that's primarily due to those students were eating at the summer school site rather than the drop-off point at those community sites.
I see, okay. How many years have we been doing that at the 3 community sites? Do you remember? I hadn't remembered us doing that in the past. That's
5.
kind of out of the blue there.
5 years.
5 years, okay. And we expect to be able to continue doing that in the future. That's also a reimbursement program?
Absolutely,
I
yes.
see, okay.
And
Well,
I know-
go ahead.
I know that my daughter volunteered to help serve those lunches. Do we get some good student participation
We
as
do.
far as volunteers?
They can get community hours by doing that. So good participation with volunteers.
Well, it's certainly a wonderful program and opportunity that we can offer these children breakfast and lunch, as I understand
Yes.
it, during the
Yes.
summer school. That's a
Yes.
big incentive for them to come to summer school.
Yes, breakfast was new this year.
I see, okay. But also reimbursed?
Correct.
All right, so we plan on doing breakfast next year?
Yes, sir.
Well, my kudos and hats off to the Food Production Center. I go by here early in the morning, and I always saw all the cars there, and I would think, well, we're getting breakfast and lunch ready for the kids. So
That's right.
it's always a good feeling, and we appreciate that on behalf of the board and also on behalf of the community, knowing that those kids get a nice meal during summer school.
Thank you.
And how about the scholarships? What's the source of those?
Those, well, the Olathe Schools Foundation provides $55,000 of that. The remainder of it comes through district funds, at-risk funds.
Okay.
You mentioned that you added a section of robotics because the demand was so high.
That's correct.
Do we have any, do kids get turned away? Are there any
No.
classes where there's not room? No.
No.
Is there a way for us to track performance of the students who we recommend coming to summer school and do come versus the ones we recommend going to summer school and don't come? I guess I'm trying to look at some of the outcomes of maintaining skill level over the summer and being prepared for the next year.
And we do pre and post testing in reading and mathematics, so we do know and can demonstrate that these programs do result in student growth, and we've had nice success with these programs, and that's why we've continued them, is because they've been effective in helping students make progress. We haven't looked at comparing it to students who are not participating, but certainly that's something that we could look at.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation.
Right. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear about some preliminary student learning results from Mrs. Mary Matthew and Mrs. Luann Hermreich.
Hello. We're here this evening to share with you some important positive student results about student learning. I'd like to open with some brief comments and some updates related to our #1 Board of Education approved strategic direction, increasing student achievement. It's truly an exciting time and perfect for this report because there is such a renewed focus on student learning that starts the school year and sort of frames what the work is all about at the beginning of the school year. Two elements of school effectiveness that really is sort of the center of this dialogue at the beginning of the year with staff are the whole idea of the academic curriculum, student learning, effective instruction, teaching for learning, as well as the school and classroom culture. And those two areas complement each other beautifully as staffs and district leaders get together and talk about how we can have a very positive, successful, and focused start to the school year. I think it's important, too, for us to take just a moment to talk about what happened in the summer that helped build the momentum to this renewed focus. So I'd like to kind of highlight a few summer initiatives that were focused around student learning. We heard from Dr. Chappell related to summer school, very important to our initiative. Great question by Dr. Daniels. The impact of that is all about student learning also and impacting that. Our summer conference that nearly started perhaps right after we closed the door in the buildings, then we're moving to our 2012 summer conference. 1,400 of the 1,500 participants were our own teachers. This is a very notable professional development experience for the 1,400 Olathe District staff members participating. All of the topics are clearly focused around our district priorities, Common Core standards. We had leading experts sharing their best information with staff, working with English language learners, early childhood, working with children, what we can learn about children of poverty. So all of those themes really encompass this focused on student learning for our 2012 summer conference. Additionally, we had 300 of our teacher leaders involved in working on very specific summer projects this summer. Those summer projects helped move us forward in curriculum revision related to Common Core standards, alignment of courses with Common Core standards. The work of those summer projects will impact nearly every single staff member in this school district. So it is a very important time for those staff members to gather together to implement summer projects. Of course, building level teams are at work working with their principals to plan for the 2012-13 school year. And that work took place both at summer conference and different staffs meet, of course, during the summer time. And then we just ended our Advanced Placement Institute, July 26th to be exact, where 45 of our own AP teachers, advanced placement teachers, participated in a week-long training. We are the hosting site in Olathe and have been for 6 years for the National College Board. One of the AP Summer Institute sites is in Olathe. So 45 of the 285 participants were our own AP teachers. So indeed, student learning is truly focused on continuous improvement every month of the year, if you will, including summer. I think at the heart, though, of what we've talked about with starting the school year and summer initiative is the very key and crucial question related to, does it make a difference? How do we know our students are meeting and exceeding those expectations? And of course, we have a very sound system of data analysis in our district that helps us answer those questions. In fact, if you stepped into schools, you would see whole building teams, entire building teams, getting together to talk about the data that Ms. Matthew is going to share with you soon. You would see district staff constantly talking about that achievement data related to student learning. Departments get together, grade level teams, small teams of teachers, and of course individual teachers look at that data to drill down to answer that question. What can be done to increase student learning? And so part of our data system, data analysis system, in Olathe schools also involves the annual report to the Board of Education. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mary Matthew, who is our Director of Student Learning, School Improvement and Assessment.
As we talk tonight about our student learning results, I'm going to begin with just a little preface about the state waiver that you may have heard about. This will be the last year that we will hear data in this same form and the same language of talking about AYP. As we know from the past, when we talk about adequate yearly progress, we've looked at Kansas reading scores, we've looked at Kansas math scores separately, we've looked at the percentage of students that were proficient or higher, we've looked at them meeting a target. With the waiver that the state heard about on July 19th with approval, you're going to hear some of those changes. So let's talk just a little bit about the waiver itself. We're going to just be really brief with it, and what I'm going to say to you is there's going to be a million questions. We may not have all the answers yet ourselves as a district. As I sat through a webinar today, probably the slide that stood out to me most about the waiver is there will be no more AYP beginning with the 2013 assessments. No more 100% proficient by 2014. No more Title I schools or districts on improvement. No more required Title I choice or sanctions. And no more highly qualified teacher improvement plans. And so that's the big picture premise that the state is selling. And I think really what we have to remember is we've worked under a pretty narrowly defined system of having one target to look at. And the new system will allow us to look at multiple measures. It'll allow us to look at growth. And so we have some great things that we'll be able to move forward. The new system will be in place for this current school year, but as we examine our data tonight, we will be looking at information set on the old system. The one change, though, that the waiver does allow for is the target data. You know, each year, and I'm going to show you in a minute a slide that shows targets clear up to 100%. And you'll see for this year on the slide that the target has remained the same. That was part of that waiver. They discovered back in February that the target could remain the same as we moved through this transition. In September, KSDE will release AYP results as we know them, and then after that, we'll start to see the changes. Another key piece of the waiver that tonight we really won't talk about either has to do with teacher evaluation, but that's an important piece that ties to the data, that ties to growth, gap, those kinds of things. We will come back at a future board meeting and share more information on beyond that. But let's take a look at our celebrations that we have related to our data. We really do have great data in our district. You can see that as the target line has grown taller and taller, we have continued to maintain and show growth over the years. So our students in reading exceed that state target and consistently have been in the 90s. And so I think that's a celebration for us to know that our kids are reading. When we look at it by different subgroups, that will be a change in the future. We won't be looking at subgroups as we have in the past. We as a district will still look at subgroups to try to keep that gap narrowed, but it won't be something that KSDE will use in terms of figuring the new accountability system. But you can see that when we look at our subgroups, we have shown growth with all of our subgroups as well, and so I think that's tremendous data as we move forward. When we isolate it out and look at the groups, keep in mind the first set of bars represents the all student group. But as you look at free reduced, our special education students and our ELL students, those stair steps are exactly what you want. You want those scores moving up. You want the gap between where our all student group is. You want those gaps narrowed. So you can see we have tremendous results. Also, when we look at it by our ethnic groups, as we have in the past, again, you can see we're narrowing the gap from where typically our Caucasian or white students have scored. We've been able to narrow the gap between our African American population and our Hispanic population. When we look at math and look at it in that same frame, once again, you'll see some really strong data in terms of mathematics. Again, above that state target, again, very strong and doing well. When we look again by our student groups, once again, we see we have made that growth from when our assessment system started in 2006 with a lower score all the way up till now. So I think it's great when we look at those pieces of it. When we isolate out and look by all student groups, our free reduced population, our special education, and our ELL, again, we see nice steady stair steps of improvement and also a closing of the gap between the student groups and our all student groups. When we same for our different ethnic groups, once again, we can see that narrowing or that closing of the gap and our students actually scoring above that state target. As part of the state AYP system, attendance and graduation rate are part of it. Those will be a couple of pieces. Attendance is kind of dropping off the AYP target piece, but graduation rate will still be an important component. Our attendance rates are strong, though, and they continue. Kids love to come to school. I think that's a big tribute to what our staff in our schools do each and every day in setting and establishing positive relationships with kids to get them there. I think, too, as we look at the graduation rate, you may recall last year we presented information on the new changes that were made with graduation rates and the new accountability system. And you can see as we look at that comparison data for 2 years, we're starting to right that ship and get that data going back up and into the 90s. We are well above the state target. You'll see there are two targets there listed. One is a 4-year cohort, one is a 5-year. The 5-year cohort group is the one that includes special education students that stay with us longer till they're 21. And so you'll see that's slightly different, but yet, again, still very, very strong. The state target is only 80, and we're well above that in both groups. When we think about celebrations and we think about AYP, this being our last time for that celebration, I think it's remarkable when we stop and think back as a district that for 6 years in a row, we have made AYP in reading. The 1 year that we did not make it, it was for a student group, and you may recall it was our ELL student group, and look at the growth that that group has made now. When we think about mathematics, with this system in place, we have made it in mathematics every single year that AYP has been in place. So those are true celebrations for us as a district. When we celebrate even for our schools, we've always talked about that as the target has gotten higher, that we knew it would continue to be a challenge for schools and with student groups. When we look at our data for our school information, our schools are making it for the all student group, and when it comes down to subgroups, we have a few subgroups that missed the mark narrowly, and when I say missed the mark narrowly, one school missed it by 0.028%. So 0.028% is a close call for it. And for those student groups, once again, it's an ELL student group, it's a special education student group, and then you can see a free reduced group. So when we look at our schools are doing a great job. So I think it's important. You'll also see the bottom bullet talks about state science and social studies. Although state science and social studies are not part of our AYP system, they are part of our state system, and they are part of our QPA, or our Quality Performance Accreditation system, which as we look at our science data, again, we can see the strength of our program being in the 90s, and same with our history, government, or social studies. The interesting thing with history, government, and social studies, you can see there are 3 years where it was not administered, and it's hard to know and plan for an assessment when it's inconsistently administered. We'll see some changes with both science and history, government in the future as well, with the assessments that we'll be giving our students. What's important, though, about those two elements, 100% of our schools are fully accredited. 100% of our schools have that accreditation due to the fact that they make AYP, due to the fact that they make the science and social studies targets. We have absolutely no schools in Olathe on improvement, and we haven't had for years. And so I think that is a tremendous effort from our staff and our students and our principals. When we think about the new KSDE accountability system, it will be such a better system. It will give us an opportunity for us to show growth and improvement. Although we've been successful with the old system as it continued to inch towards the 100%, all schools across the United States and in Kansas would have struggled. So I think the new system allows for us to have a change. The new system will be in place until the ESEA, or until the Elementary Secondary Education Act is revised, and we still don't know when that will happen. So when we think about what contributed to our positive results, it's a multitude of things. We have a good, strong curriculum. You heard Luann talk earlier about Common Core and the curriculum and changes. It's very clear right now what it is we have for teachers to do. We're continuing to work on implementing the Common Core for this year. We have good instruction going on in those classrooms. We see that when we're out doing data walks. We know that we have a strong reading and literacy program. Our schools are data-driven. They know kids. They know what kids need, and they're continuing to work to match those needs. We have a good strategic direction in terms of buildings, in terms of their professional learning, in terms of what needs to happen. Building leadership teams are instrumental with their building leadership to help make those positive results happen. And also district staff in teaching and learning, and others in general administration that work with buildings. I think it is truly a team effort, a very cohesive team that makes a difference for our students. So I think we have lots of things to celebrate. So we do have celebrations. As we look ahead, we'll continue to make that transition to the Common Core. That's what we know will help our students be successful. We know the assessments are going to look different. We know they're going to incorporate more writing. They're going to incorporate different types of learning in terms of testing styles. We've been so used to a straight multiple choice test. So those are all things that as we continue to work, we'll continue to work with teachers on. This will be the last year of our current state assessment system, and we know that in 2014 we'll test drive a new system and be ready to roll in the 2015 school year. So with that, I would stand for any questions that you might have over my very quick report.
Just have a comment. Because it was such a quick report, I think some of the information can be glossed over, but one of the things that stood out to me was the narrowing the gap, and I think the community needs to take a lot of pride in that, because if you just look at some of those numbers, we went from a minus 50 gap in 2006 to a minus 10 gap this last year.
Absolutely.
And so the community needs to be aware of what people out in the audience are doing, not just one section of students,
right,
but for all students. So I applaud the district for that, and the leadership too. So
great.
Continuing along that same line, I think all of us as board members have taken our turn complaining about AYP. Mm-hmm. However, I look at this and it's a little frightening to let go of it, because we do have these goals, and so how do we move forward in a new system and continue to make the kind of improvements that we've seen under the old system that we all didn't care for?
I think we'll still be able to do it in the same fashion that we've done. It's going to look slightly different, but the positive really is being able to show growth. Mm-hmm. Whereas before we've been able to show this growth, but nobody's cared. They've only cared what you've done that particular school year. Mm-hmm. Now we'll be able to say, just like Mr. Poland did, look at that, we were 50 points off, now look at where we are now. So I think it will be such a positive change.
The other thing that I always remind myself is we look at these graphs, and sometimes the difference between a 93.2 and a 93.1, it could be one student.
Could be.
And one student can have a bad day on a test day, so it might not even really reflect what that student knows. And so
Yeah.
I do appreciate some of the changes that are coming our way.
I do too. So, any other questions?
I just had another comment. I say this every year. We have so much to be proud of in Olathe, and we have everyone from the classroom teachers to the paras to our folks who prepare the meals, who keep our schools safe and keep the schools clean, all the way up to the district leadership have done such a great job and so much hard work.
Absolutely.
And the community really needs to be proud of that. And I hope that we tell the community our successes in our fall newsletter. That because this is so easy to overlook, and we just kind of think we just snap our fingers and it happens, but it just doesn't happen. I mean, there's a lot of strategic hard work and planning and effort that goes into this, and it just doesn't happen by happenstance. So from that standpoint, from this board member, I want to say thank you to all 4,500 of the district employees and how hard they work, and to include our parents. And when you look at our attendance rates of 95%, what that says is those kids really like coming to school. They want to be in school. They want, and it's a kudos to the parents as well for making sure that their children are in school. Absolutely. So for the whole community, the whole school community, our parents and the kids, hey, job well done, and let's go get them in 2012-13.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Well, we're running quite a bit ahead of schedule, so if my fellow board members agree, we can move forward into the agenda to our consent action items. 6.01 through 6.06, we have approval of our minutes, our financial reports, our accounts payable, human resources, an athletic trainer agreement, and some instructional materials. Are there any items that board members would like to pull for discussion?
Madam President, I don't have any that I want to pull for discussion, but I do have comments on 6.05 and 6.06 that I would like to include before we take the vote.
Anyone else? All right then, Mr. Parker.
This is great that we're able to add a course. And I was going to mention earlier, we've done all of the great things we've done as student achievement in light of some $30 million in budget reduction and staff reduction. And here we are in the light of very difficult economic times. We're adding a course, not taking away a course, adding a course in our career and technical program that is really, from what I see, is important for our students. And again, congratulations to the staff to be able to carve out the money, the time, and the staff and the effort to put that course in place. And then in regards to 6.06, I noticed that the projected cost was $24,130. However, the purchase will provide a savings over the next 3 years. Do we have any idea about how much the savings would be on that?
We do. By the end of the third year, we think it'll be almost $10,000.
Okay, after the purchase of the program, so it'd be $10,000.
And actually, why that's not even more significant is because at the beginning of this new software, we have to have some training, and that we'll pay for. But easily a $10,000 difference when we get it implemented.
Okay, so it's a good expenditure.
It is.
Okay.
All right, if that's all the discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
I would move to approve the consent. I want to do this because it's been a while since I got to do this. I want to approve the consent agenda numbers 6.01 to 6.06 as presented.
Second.
All right, Ms. Hibbs, it's been moved by Mr. Parker and seconded by Mr. Poland to approve our consent agenda. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Dr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Poland?
Yes.
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Ms. Ashley?
Yes.
The motion passes. And I believe we have time for another item. So we'll move along to 7.01, approval of the PMZ installation. Any comments or questions about
I
that?
need to recuse myself because these are all my customers.
All right. Ms. Hibbs, will you let the record show that Mr. Poland left the room?
I would like to ask that Mr. Hutchinson just give us a brief overview of what this particular item is covering and then what the total project is costing and the reason we need to do this, just as kind of a gentle reminder. Maybe not so gentle reminder because it's expensive.
Certainly. I believe it was a month or two ago, we came forward and explained we had an issue with our penthouse multi-zone units. Some of the units could be repaired through replacement of individual heaters. Other units, based on age, it made sense to replace the entire bundled unit on the rooftop. We bid all the material and labor for the heater replacements, and we also bid out the material replacement for the bundled units. This is the labor portion of the project at, I believe, $233,000 to install the full bundled units. Overall, all of this work is $1.6 million worth of heating and cooling replacement.
And how many schools are involved in this? That's okay.
Well over 20, as I just can't remember the count.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly.
And this starts in September, and when will it be completed?
It will be, actually, we're almost complete with the heater replacement now. We'll begin this in September, and it's kind of a Thursday to Monday type work. All of these vendors can really put a lot of men on the job. Will be done sometime in October before we would need to switch to the heating.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
When it's been, it might be January.
All right, with that, then I would accept a motion.
I move to accept the low bid from Stanger Industries in the amount of $233,560 for PMZ installation.
Second.
All right, Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Ms. Ashley and a second by Mr. Scheer. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Felter,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Scheer,
Yes.
Ms. Ashley,
Yes.
Dr. Daniels.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And we will keep moving. We'll wait for Mr. Poland to return. And on to 8.01, approval of the Children's Internet Protection Act policy. Is there any discussion or questions?
I would move to approve the adoption of District Policy JTA in compliance with the Children's Internet Protection Act, CIPA.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Parker and a second by Ms. Felter. Ms. Hibbs, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Poland,
Yes.
Mr. Scheer,
Yes.
Ms. Ashley,
Yes.
Dr. Daniels.
Yes.
Mrs. Felter.
Yes. On to 8.02, approval of the 2012-13 athletic trainer agreement. Discussion or questions?
Dr. Perry, can you just, because again, this is a dollar amount that we have, but we're only paying 50% of it. Can you just kind of go over that and what we get for that and the relationship we have with the Olathe Medical Center?
It's really a tremendous program for our district in terms of education and awareness for our athletes and those who participate in activities for their safety. And so because of this, we have athletic trainers at each of our high schools. I think the FTE is 3.5, but they share between the schools. But again, it provides for at our practices safety and awareness again of injuries and rehabbing of those injuries, but also all of our games. We have those people available on the sideline for first diagnosis of injuries. So it's a tremendous program in terms of the safety of our kids. It also fits in well with our sports medicine program from Olathe North. That school will benefit because kids that are in that program also get to participate on the field after school practices. They are there and obviously are doing things for getting ice and helping kids elevate like a knee or a leg or something if they've been injured, just assisting. They're not actually doing the diagnosing, obviously, or performing, but they are there learning while all that happens. So again, if we didn't have this program, we would be out trying to secure those services entirely on our own. So it's a wonderful partnership we have with OMC. these trainers work 40 to 50 hours a week, and many times on Saturdays or weekends, they're there again in our evening ball games. Many times it goes beyond that number in terms of hours spent, so it's quite a program that we have in place.
Any more discussion? With that, then I would entertain a motion.
Well, I move to approve the 2012-2013 agreement for athletic trainer services with Olathe Medical Center as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Mr. Scheer and a second by Ms. Ashley. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Poland?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Ms. Ashley?
Yes.
Dr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes. Motion carries. 8.03, approval of the 2012-13 Board of Education committee assignments. I put these together based on your preferences. Are there any requests for changes? All right, then, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Board of Education 2012 to 2013 committee assignments as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Mrs. Felter and a second by Mr. Poland. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Poland?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Ms. Ashley?
Yes.
Dr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
And 8.04, the Board of Education School Site Council assignments. Again, if there are any requests for changes, we would talk about those now. Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the Board of Education 2012 to 2013 school site council assignments as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Mr. Poland and a second by Mr. Scheer. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Ms. Ashley?
Yes.
Dr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Poland?
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin, for accommodating all our requests.
Actually, you guys made it really easy. I appreciate that. All right, well, I guess we need to know what's the pleasure of the board. We have quite a bit of time before our public hearing, and we can't really move further on our voting agenda. Dr. Berry, do you have a preference?
I think you need to take your comfort break. I think that's the only option right now.
Well, then you guys get an extra long comfort break. We will meet back here at 7 o'clock. Now, technically, we have 1 minute, but I think it's safe to get started. At this point, we're going to have a public hearing for the 2012-13 budget, and I believe Mr. Hutchinson has a couple of slides to show us.
Good evening. Yes, just a quick reminder from a couple weeks ago, the main topic this evening, our 2012-13 budget and some of the key assumptions behind that. Our key assumptions are we're building that around an increase of 425 students. We have growth contingency of 450, meaning that if we can go up to 450 more students and still be within our published budget. That's built around an assessed valuation decrease of 1.15%. Base data per pupil is at $3,838. That's up $58 from the previous year, but still $562 below the FY09 level. And we've built the budget trying to maximize capital outlay, but keep our overall mill levy flat. As a reminder, what governs our budget is really a thing called a legal maximum budget. Last year it was $217.4 million. This year it is dropping to $216.8 for a decline of $600,000. Although we receive about $1.8 million more from that increase in base state aid per pupil, and we get another $1.3 million because of growth, we have some weightings that are declining. Those weightings relate to facilities. Our new facilities weighting is down $2.5 million, extraordinary growth down nearly $500,000. In addition, we reduced expenditure budgets and other revenue sources were down by about $846 to get us within that legal maximum budget requirement. The impact on the mill levies are as follows. In total, though, we are actually decreasing from 69.924 to 69.684, which is a decrease of 0.24 mils. How that's seen on a tax bill is illustrated here. You'll see 3 lines, one that stays at the statutory 20 mills. Our school general will be down 6.5% or 2.392 mills. And our bond will be up from 13.1 to 15.2, which is 2.1 increase or 16.4. Overall, though, as you see, once again, down 0.24 mills or up or 0.3% decrease in the rate. Just to remember, this was what was our published budget in the paper, and that is what the hearing is for. Any reactions to that published budget?
All right, thank you, Mr. Hutchison. At this time, the board would welcome comments from any members of the public who would like to take a moment to share them. All right, then seeing none, we can move on to general public comments. At each regular meeting, the Board of Education reserves limited time for individuals wishing to address the board. We request that individual speakers limit their comments to 5 minutes. The clerk will monitor the time and notify the speaker when the 5-minute time limit has expired. Please direct your comments to the entire board. If a response is appropriate, the president will respond or refer to another individual. In an effort to respect the privacy, we ask that speakers refrain from discussing personal complaints involving individual staff members or students. Those speaking are advised that public comments are videotape recorded for broadcast on the district's Educational Access Channel and audio tape recorded as a matter of public record. Individuals addressing the board should come to the podium at the front of the room and state your name and address. I don't believe we have anyone who signed up. However, if you're here and would like to make a comment, we would welcome that now. All right, well, seeing none, we will move on to the fun part of our meeting where we do awards and recognitions.
Good evening. We have numerous recognitions tonight. I'd like to welcome all of our distinguished guests. We have 2 business partner recognitions tonight. I'd like to ask Heather Schoonover from Community Development to come forward to help with those recognitions. Our first business partner recognition is of Black & Beach. The Olathe Public Schools have a long-time partnership with Black & Beach. They annually partner with our 21st Century program to host aerospace and engineering student interns for a semester or summer project. The workplace exploration and hands-on learning from an industry leader brings unending value to our students who may become future engineering leaders in our area. In addition, this summer, a group of college interns at Black & Beach were charged with doing a community service project. The team of engineers decided to help organize and promote the district's back-to-school outreach for donations and setup. We'd like to call forward Jennifer Clay from Black & Beach and Ian O'Leary, who is here representing Black & Beach college interns. Thank you for all you do to help support the Olathe Public Schools. Thank you very much. We will next recognize our teacher externship program. Continuing a rich tradition of enhancing staff professional development with our community partners, teachers annually spend 1 or 2 weeks during the months of June or July working with a local business. This provides educators the opportunity to find real-life connections that can be incorporated into the classroom to enhance their curriculum. Tonight, we both recognize our staff as well as business partners and celebrate their collaborative efforts to enhance the learning process for all Olathe students. The skill sets teachers learn this summer will be implemented into their classrooms with the kickoff of our new school year. We thank each of you for bringing the community into the classroom. I'd like to ask Denise Griffey, Career and Technical Education Coordinator, to come forward to assist with the recognition. And honorees, when I call your name, please come forward. Chris Kennedy from Olathe North, who was mentored by Aaron Fletcher from KU Med. Nicole Etherton from Olathe East, who was mentored by Marie Alcacer from Safe Home. Rebecca Reyes from Olathe South, who was mentored by Esther Brown Schultz from Farmers Insurance, and Jared Eller from Rayleck. Jessica Colson from Olathe South, who was mentored by Laura Flynn from Salvation Army and Sarah Dieters from 3 Dog Bakery. Jenny Freeman from Olathe Northwest, who was mentored by Bert Lawson from Farmland Foods. Paul Katsoulis from Mill Creek, who was mentored by Tony Duncan from Bill's Auto Paint. And Andrew Netterville from Olathe Northwest, who was mentored by Travis McElhaney from BML. Congratulations to each of you. Thank you very much. Next, we would like to recognize members of our Business and Finance Division for their outstanding work on the district's budget. Would John Hutchison, Chief Financial and Operations Officer, and Kathy Murphy from the Business and Finance Division come forward? And I wanted to mention too that Jean Katzer is an instrumental part of the budgeting process, but she couldn't be here tonight. The Association of School Business Officials International, or ASBO, has awarded the school district its Meritorious Budget Award for excellence in budget presentation. To earn this award, the school district submitted its 2011-12 budget for a rigorous review based on stringent criteria. This is the 15th consecutive year the district has received this honor. Congratulations. Next, it is my pleasure to recognize the Olathe East girls soccer team. Would you come forward along with Principal Bill Weber and Coach Terry Hare? The Olathe East girls soccer team won the 6A state championship in late spring. They finished their season undefeated with a 21-0 record. In addition, the National Soccer Coaches Association of America ranked the team as #1 in the nation in its end of season rankings. They are the first Kansas team to receive a #1 ranking from the National Soccer Coaches Association of America. What an accomplishment. And Coach, would you like to say a few words? Surprise!
Coach,
it is quite an honor and a privilege to stand before you and publicly recognize this outstanding group of girls. Their accomplishments are unprecedented. It's the first team in the state of Kansas to ever go 21-0. And if I could, I have 3 graduates of Olathe East. They're moving on. If they could at least introduce the girls that are here and maybe ask the parents when your daughter's name is given, if you would stand up, because it is a triangle. We have a wonderful supportive administration, we have great assistant coaches, and we have wonderful athletes and parents that allow these girls to pursue their passion and achieve greatness. So if my 3 seniors that have graduated would at least introduce the girls that are here.
Okay, well, I'm Laura Schnell, and my parents could make it tonight. But this was a really awesome season, and it was awesome to be a part of. And I wanted to thank you guys as a board for helping put everything together and making everything possible for us. That allowed us to do this. I'm Rachel Allen. Back there. Charlie Midas, and my mom's there taking pictures. I'm Natalie Wolf. My mom's over there. I'm Kirsten Porter, and my parents are back there. I'm Carissa Kennitz, and my mom's back there, and my little sister. I'm Alan Ward, and my parents are right over there. I'm Haley Thompson, and my parents couldn't make it.
Congratulations to each of you.
Great job.
Next, I'd like to recognize the 21st Century Environmental Design students from Olathe East. Bill, if you would come back. I'd also like to call up all the 21st Century Environmental Design students and instructor Barbara Nikumanesh. The 21st Century Environmental Design program at Olathe East earned high honors at the Chicago Architecture Mock Firms competition. And here they come. The National Skyscraper Challenge team of Emma Cole, and raise your hand when I say your name, Gage Compton, Ashley Foster, Casey Gum, and Brittany Suxendow were named the top engineering mock firm. They were also runners-up in the top marketing mock firm and top organization mock firm categories. The Home Design Challenge team of Zach Darpinian, Jordan Green, Laura Trickett, and Mac Wendling won top construction mock firm, top marketing mock firm, top sustainable mock firm, top engineering mock firm, and top architecture mock firm. Oh. There's more. They were also named West Regional Mock Firms Champion and Mock Firms National Champion. Congratulations to each of you. Before you sit down, I also want to add one more thing. In addition, the Environmental Design Group participated in the National Technology Student Association competition and had 5 top 10 finishers. Ashley Foster, Brittany Suxendow, and Mac Wendling placed 2nd in architectural model, 4th in construction renovation, and 7th in manufacturing prototype. Rachel Dennis placed 4th in technical sketching, and Mac Wendling placed 7th in 2D computer-aided design architecture. So congratulations on that. And are your families here tonight? We'd love for them to stand to be recognized as well. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to recognize Olathe Northwest, who had outstanding success at the National Technology Student Association competition. I'd like to ask Andrew Boppert, a 2012 Olathe Northwest graduate, to come forward, along with Assistant Principal Greg Smith and Instructor Kevin Hulson. Andrew, along with team member Connor Weeks, who couldn't be here tonight, placed 1st in the 34th annual competition. The duo won for technology problem solving, which is the largest team competition at the national event. This is the 2nd year in a row that Olathe Northwest students took home a national championship trophy. In addition, this year Connor Weeks placed 2nd nationally in computer-aided design, 3-dimensional engineering, and 4th in tech bowl written, and Blake Hampton placed 4th in music production. And Andrew, is your family here tonight? We'd love for them to stand and be recognized as well.
Yeah, my mom and dad are here, my grandparents.
Oh, wonderful.
Plans in the next few weeks where you're going to school?
I'm going to KU for mechanical engineering.
Yes! Congratulations to you and to your teammates.
It is football season, you know.
Was that all a put-up?
Our next recognition is of 3 students who placed 1st at state in the Skills USA competition. I'd like to ask Kathy Musgrave to come forward, along with students Aiden Bone, Thomas Williams, and Dalton Wilson, and teachers Gary Palmiere and Kenneth Gandy.
Get their cool medals.
Aiden Bone from Olathe South. Aiden, raise your hand. Placed 1st at state in prepared speech and competed at the national conference in June. Thomas Williams placed 1st at state in automotive service technology and also competed at the national conference. Dalton Wilson from Olathe North placed 1st at state in job skills demonstration and also competed at the national competition. Congratulations to each of you on this outstanding successes. And are your families here tonight? We'd love for them to stand to be recognized as well. Thank you. And now we'd like to take a moment for a special recognition of a Board of Education member. Board President Amy Martin, if you'd come to the podium to honor Harlan Parker, past president of the Olathe Board of Education.
Could you hear that? Those of you who know Harlan know that this sort of recognition makes him really uncomfortable. He would much rather that we shine the spotlight on our staff and our kids, and he just whispered in my ear, make it short. But if you know Harlan, you also know that he serves with tremendous dedication and great heart. So it's a pleasure for us to take a few moments to recognize his leadership as school board president last year. Harlan, you've always been a leader on the board, speaking out on behalf of the district and always advocating for what's best for our students. You seem to always have a handy quote or a quick history lesson or a wise bit of advice when we're struggling with a difficult decision to help provoke thought. And as our president, your commitment to your role was unwavering. You put in more hours than most of us realize, juggling your personal and professional responsibilities with all of the work that comes with keeping the board focused and on track. You served as a fine ambassador for the board at community events and gave some stirring speeches. For those of you who were at the legislative breakfast, you'll recall Harlan, he gave us a very exciting recount of the Olathe South State football championship game in the context of opportunity, and it was really something to see. I wished, as he was going through it, that I'd had a video camera on him, because it's something that all of us really would have appreciated. Harlan, you always give 100%. As our president, you also worked hard to create a climate of trust and an atmosphere that fostered discussion and collaboration. Under your leadership, every board member felt their opinion was welcomed and respected. People who followed the activity of the board last year know that we didn't always agree. Yet, Harlan, you always made sure we took time on those tough decisions, and you made sure that the concerns of each member were discussed and addressed. You set the bar high for our discourse and kept the tone of our meetings professional and friendly. With that said, on behalf of the entire Board of Education, it is my honor to present to you this plaque recognizing your commitment, service, and leadership as president of the Olathe USD 233 Board of Education for the 2011-2012 school year.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to say thank three groups, actually one individual and three groups for the support they gave me last year as I served as board president. First of all, my wife, Vicki. As many of you know, Vicki had some challenges last year of her own, health challenges with cancer, and through it all, she was a real trooper, and didn't matter where I had to be or when I needed to be there. She said, Harlan, you need to go there. And then, so thank you, hon. And then I would like to thank Dr. Berry and your leadership team. You made the job of board president really easy. All it took was one phone call, one email, or one text if I had an issue, and it was handled. So Dr. Berry, on behalf of myself, thank you very much, and your leadership team as well. A great team and a great dedicated group of individuals. And then thirdly, I'd like to thank the board. As Amy mentioned, we have a great board. There's a great deal of trust on this board. There's no acrimony on this board. We all can state our opinions and our feelings and know that we can do that with a great sense of trust, knowing that those opinions are going to be respected by all board members, and we all have our different insights and our own different viewpoints, and all of them are able to be expressed and respected and listened to. At the end of the day, we have to make a vote, and at the end of the vote, we all support the vote. So again, on my behalf, thank you to my fellow board members for making my year as board president very, very easy. Thank you.
Quick diversion a little bit.
Certainly.
Since we're talking about awards, Leah and I were just talking, would you explain the extern program a little bit? Just briefly?
Yeah, and I might have somebody from the audience come up and do a better job than I could do in terms of the opportunities our teachers have to, over the summertime, go out into the field. But Gretchen?
I'd be happy to, thank you. And I had the pleasure of working with the externship program for a number of years. It's, as Dr. Berry mentioned, an opportunity for our staff to participate in business and industry, to get a view of kind of, in all honesty, an opportunity to see their skills that they're teaching day in and day out applied in the workforce. Not only that, it adds credibility to their lessons and to the kinds of skills that they're teaching, to be able to say, you know, I saw this in action, and this is where it's used and how it's used. Then it also, beyond that, as was mentioned in the presentation, provides an opportunity for partnerships and connections. So we have other opportunities for internships, for shadowships, for guest speakers, all those kinds of connections that also bring the industry partners into the classroom. So it's really a win-win all the way around. It's been part of a program that at one time had been actually funded through a separate funding stream through grants, now supported through our Perkins grant that supports that kind of connection for our teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Scher. You bet. All right. With that, we can move on to the 8.05, the approval of the 2012-2013 budget. Are there any comments or discussion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'd move to adopt the 2012-2013 budget as presented and authorize the budget for submission to the Kansas State Department of Education and the county clerk for certification.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Mr. Poland and a second by Mr. Parker. Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Ashley?
Yes.
Dr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Poland?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
9.01 through 9.05, our future action items include an architectural engineering request for proposal for elementary school renovations, also a proposal for the Food Production Center, 2 student trips, and our bowling alley agreements. Do any board members have a question or care to make comments?
I just have one quick question on 9.02, Mr. Thompson. When is our projected startup and completion day for the renovations to the Food Production Center?
Right now, we're anticipating a March of next year start date and a June of 14 completion date. That's 15 months.
Right.
And after we have a construction manager, we can fine tune that schedule a little bit, but that's our current estimate.
Thank you.
I have a question about 9.01. After we make these renovations at the elementaries, how many elementaries will be left that need doors, windows?
I think the number's 5.
After this
After
group?
this.
Okay. Okay. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Okay.
Dr. Daniels, we discussed this in more detail in the construction committee, and the staff used a priority system to determine which schools would be next in line. So just wanted to add that additional bit of information.
So when we tackle those next 5, will we do them all together?
Yes.
Is that the plan?
Very similar projects that will lend some efficiency to the cost and the construction. It's possible that we might even squeak out enough that we could pick up one more in the process.
Great. All right. 10.01 is topics for discussion. Do board members have anything they would like to bring up this evening?
Madam President, I had one. I was thinking about this as we were talking about and we took action on the athletic trainer program. I'd like to see if we could get a report on the concussion program. I know that we heard a report on that early in the year. I'd like to know how many student athletes participated in that and were able to get that baseline reading done for the concussion program, and what kind of follow-up we're going to do to encourage student athletes who didn't do that to do that, and is there a deadline, and just some general information on that so we make the public aware of that, and hopefully we're getting good participation in that this year.
I would add to that I saw the Olathe East newsletter for the start of the school year, and that program got really good billing in the newsletter. I appreciate that. By
September, we'd have a good idea about how many student athletes have participated in that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, Dr. Berry, what do you have for us this evening?
Well, you had mentioned that the student recognition part was is always a fun part of the meeting, and it truly is, to see our students and to be recognized for such outstanding achievements through the school year. And the exciting part is that we're getting ready to start again with the start of the new school year. So my remarks are going to really focus on what all of our efforts are being focused on right now in the district, and that would be the start of the school year. We do welcome all of our new teachers to the district tomorrow. Starts with a breakfast, and some of you are able to attend that, and then they will start in on their pre-service training. We bring in our new teachers ahead of everybody else. All teachers are scheduled to report by the 9th of August, so next week we'll have everybody back and on staff. And then again, it continues to build and to get excitement from there. We start first day of school on the 15th with elementary students in grades 1 through 5. And then, as we have done in the past, we continue to make that transition an important piece of a successful school year for kids. And so we bring in our 6th graders and our 9th graders on the 15th. So they're the only grade in that level at the school. So that, again, it's a great transition time. Some of you had the chance today to spend some time with members of the Olathe Northwest student team, some leaders, and they're part of that link crew that will actually be doing some of that transition, and that's in place at all of our schools, whether it's the Where Everyone Belongs program at the middle schools or our high school programs. We have kids that are involved in helping the new kids to the school be able to be successful through a good transition. August 13th, and again, I certainly wish we'd get some coolness, but August 13th will start the official year in terms of athletic practices. So again, that will kick everything off, the activities, so you'll start to see a lot of activity around our schools. When we're getting ready, and I say all of our time right now is being focused on the start of the school year, staff in this building spending a lot of time not only getting things ready in terms of budget and change in P cards and a lot of those things, but we're dealing with those issues to help parents be ready for school, dealing with fee-based kindergarten, those last-minute transfers, new kids that come into the district. So it's, again, a lot of activity, but it's all aimed at trying to get a good start to the school year on the 15th. Mary Matthew did a great job in explaining a little bit about the change in the waiver and what that means for the state of Kansas, and I want to emphasize some more of that. We are still learning some things as the state of Kansas starts to unveil what their waiver looks like and some of the development pieces that are yet to be done still. But I want to make sure it's really clear that while we're not really kicking up our heels that accountability has gone out the window, it's very much we're going to be held accountable as school districts, but it's going to be in a different format, a format that we're really excited about because it's, again, as Mary said, on multiple measures rather than just a testing date or a test score. The other focus we're going to hear an awful lot more about is college and career ready for all of our kids. That is still being designed at the state level in terms of what that looks like. But the new system is going to have some differentiation for our kids and for our schools in terms of recognition. So still very much being held accountable in the state of Kansas. And I think that's important for us to focus on. The last thing I want to mention is we're always trying to look at ways that we can communicate better with our public. Just want to mention something that Maggie shared with me today. Today was the 1-year anniversary of the new website design. And in that 1 year, we've had almost 3 million visitors. Which is great. I mean, that's in today's age, that's the way a lot of our people go because they can go to the main homepage and get some access to all kinds of stories and the latest news for our district. Almost 500,000 of those are unique visitors, so it's not just someone hitting multiple times, but a lot of traffic that goes through that website, so we're excited about that. The other piece is that I think it was yesterday we started, again, all new to us in terms of ways to communicate with our public, but the district is now tweeting. We have joined Twitter, and so the communications department sends out tweets during the day if anybody wants to follow, and it's going to be a way that, again, people with their device can get quick information in short little bursts, obviously, about what's going on in the district. So we're excited about adding that to our arsenal of communication. We're also excited making progress, communications department, on that new format for the newsletter. Mr. Parker's smiling. I think it's going to be like a phone book we're going to have to deliver around the community. There's going to be so much in it, but we are excited about the change in format and the improvement in terms of readership numbers. We are now told, and Chris Garlopp and Maggie did some work on it, we're going to hit 58,000 households, which is a huge improvement from what we had been. And again, with the change in format, it's going to be cost effective, so it'll actually be less expensive than the 2 issues we put out last year. So we're excited about that.
All right, I believe we need an executive session tonight, Dr. Berry?
We do. 45 minutes, please.
I'm glad we moved along quickly then. All right, would one of the board members care to make a motion?
I'd move that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel, to consult with an attorney for the body or agency, to discuss matters relating to employer-employee negotiations, and for the purpose of preliminary discussion relating to the acquisition of real property, and that the board will return to the regular meeting at 8:20. In this room, the executive session is required in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals to be discussed, to protect attorney-client privilege and the public interest, to protect the district's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest, and to protect the district's financial interest and bargaining position.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Mr. Poland and a second by Dr. Daniels. Would you call the roll, please?
Dr. Daniels?
Yes.
Mrs. Felcher?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Poland?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Ms. Ashley?
Yes.